First, I can tell you something about me. My name is Damjan. Here to provide some contact information about me. You can find me on Twitter or email me if you have any question regarding model development for Drupal. During this session, please feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions regarding the topic. As the slide said, I started as PHP developer, and I first installed Drupal version 4.7, and I have to tell you that the difference between 4 point something and 7 point something is huge. Now I'm working as a system administrator. I'm responsible for several Linux servers, which are all running Drupal. I had a session earlier this day about eager and how to easily maintain sites with it. First, before I continue, I would like to know how many of you already know Drupal. Okay, how many of you are thinking to make your own module to do something great? Okay. So for those who don't know, Drupal is open source. It's available from Drupal.org. You can download the core archive. Install it on your computer, on any machine that can run PHP. Support the database. Drupal is very customizable with your own themes and modules. If you cannot find any themes or module that is suitable for your situation, you can easily develop one of your own. It's very good documented, and basically with all of this in mind, you have no limits what to do with Drupal. When you install Drupal, you need to figure out which modules are right for you, which modules do you need for your project. And if you go on Drupal.org, you will find a bunch of modules available. It's very good to look for those modules that are well supported, that are live, because it's very important to have modules that somebody is taking care of. If you are starting with a module that was developed only from one person and the development stopped, it's very unlikely that you will get any support if you need it. So the question is, which one to use, how to use it, and how to configure all of those modules. And even if you succeed with most of them to achieve what you want, it's very possible that you are missing a module. Maybe you want to do something that any other module can, and then you basically need to think about how to develop a module of your own. So for Drupal, in Drupal we are talking about 3 types of modules, called 3 Cs. Modules are divided like core modules, contributed modules, and custom modules. This last option, custom modules, is something that I will talk about in the session. Core modules are modules that are already built into Drupal core. You will find those inside /modules directory. It's very important not to put your own modules inside this directory, because it's very possible that you will break something and later after you will update your core PHP files. Contributed modules are modules developed by the community. These are all modules available on Drupal.org/project. projects. I think you can download them, you can use them, you can even contribute your own code, commit back, and be part of the great Drupal community. All of the modules, just like Drupal, is shared under the same Drupal public license. So rules that applies to this license also applies to modules. And custom modules are ones that you create for your own project, for your clients, or for yourself. It's very important for you to understand where to save your module and where you can use your module. This is the main concept where to put the Drupal module. You can see that on the top is Drupal core, divided and on themes and modules. Core modules and core themes is something that you don't touch at the beginning. Later on, of course, if you want to fix some core bugs and commit it back, this is the way you do it. Also, contributed modules are something that you need to save apart from custom modules. So each custom module is saved under this path. For those who already installed Drupal, you will see that you need to have installed settings inside sites folder. And inside sites folder you have more possibilities. You can have modules and themes inside all folder. That means that every site installed in this platform will be able to use these modules and themes. You can also create a folder with the same name as your website, and modules inside this folder will only be available for specific site. So for your custom module, you can put it inside specific sites folder or in folder named all. And then, of course, it's very common to use a subfolder called custom and contribute. Inside contribute, you put contributed modules. Inside custom folder, you put your own modules. Even if you are using a Git, it's very helpful to have this kind of structure because you can put every module inside custom folder into your Git repo. So when I started Drupal module development, I was how can I say, I was very confused where to start. So later this session, you will see the basic stuff you need to develop your own module. First, we have to think about module name. This name should be a very important step on your module development. And this name should be unique and short. Why unique and why short? Unique because it's used in all of the file and function names. Why short? Because it's used for prefix for any function that you develop inside your module. So for example, if your short name is my module, each function inside your module will have prefix function my module, da 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 da. Because of the naming, and because this is a prefix for function names, you also need to use only letters for the start, and it's very common to use lowercase letters and underscores if you have any spaces. For this example, I will use this is stat. This stands for Damjan Cvetan, me, and stat stands for statistic. Our SQL module will display current node and user statistic. Will only count how many nodes and user is there on your website. So now when we have a name, you you can create empty folder inside this path, modules custom. This folder now is called this is that. And inside this folder, it's necessary to create two files. One file, and each file needs to have the same name as folder, so your short name. You create .module file, which is basically PHP file, and you inside this file you start a line with opening PHP tag. It's very important to know that you don't need to close PHP opening, so you just leave on the end of the line, at the end of the file, you leave empty lines. Another required file is .info. This file is used for meta information about your module. For example, this .info file is required for every module. It's standard in file format, which contains key value pairs. Here, for example, I've used the name. It's Drupal statistic. This could be short or long string. Description can be even longer. With core, you define in which Drupal your module is able to run. And this first three keys are required to have inside .info file. There are also many others keys available. One is called package. If you have many modules on your site, and if you already try to use it, you will see that modules are on modules page are combined together. They are grouped, and how they are grouped by package name. So if you are using package name, your name or your company or your project, you will see all your modules grouped together inside one package. Other optional keys are also style sheets. Here you can define all possible CSS files that your module need. You can put as many as you want. The same rule applies for scripts. These are JavaScript files. With files key, we define additional files that your module needs to run. And of course, very useful is dependencies, where you define all other modules that your module needs to work properly. So if you create all of this inside right folder with right permissions, when you refresh module page on your Drupal site, you will be able to see your module on the module list. I have here, for example, this is my modules, custom, this is folder, this is text. If I open this, I have meta descriptions, and this is my module. Here I have other code that I'll be explaining later, but this is for start, it's enough. And if I go to my module list, this is now run locally on my computer, and it will work. Not. Okay. So this is our new module that we just created. We can also go right away and enable it, and then we can save configuration.
You have to clear cache to be able to pick it up, right?
Yeah. For the first time, if you put module inside modules folder, you refresh page, and then when you change something significant, when you change something that's very important to Drupal, you need to clear cache because Drupal needs to refresh the module's paths and available functions. So now we can continue with writing our own code inside this module. First we will talk about some standards that applies in Drupal Word. We don't use tabs for hidden to be used two spaces. And each file, every file should have Unix line ending, not Windows line ending. Just like I said before, you need closely PHP tag. Constants should be defined, all uppercases. And once again, you need to comment your code. This is not something to forget, because if you are developing something today, I'm very certain that after 1 year you will not know what you have done with your algorithms and functions. So keeping this in mind, we're halfway. Now I would like to present to you how modules works inside Drupal. Drupal is using so-called hooks. Hook is a hook. The first paragraph is copy-paste text from dictionary. And if you are thinking about what hooks do, the name really applies to this case. Where hooks are fundamental to Drupal modules, everything that Drupal does with hooks. These hooks are a way how to interact with core modules, and even inside core modules, calls to other core modules are done by hooks. So hooks can occur at various points in execution grid. You can also define hooks as an event listener. For example, there is a hook that is triggered on every time a new content is created, and you can manipulate something different on this action. So if user creates new content, you can add additional title to it. You can I don't know, count the words user type in, and if this word is too big, you throw an error that this amount of text isn't allowed. These hooks are all named like foo_var. The first part, foo is module name. So this is again a short, unique name, the same name as your module. And the other part is hook name. So if you create some functions inside your module, that first they need to be recognizable by Drupal, and by using hooks, you are telling Drupal, hey Drupal, I have a function you need to call, and inside that function you define everything you want to do. This is a little graph how things works. So when you start Drupal in Bootstrap, in Drupal runtime, Drupal goes through different stages. And for example, this is the stage when Drupal is calling hook menu. This is the most important hook that you will use, mainly because with this function you declare new paths inside of Drupal. So when Drupal is calling this function or any other hook function, Drupal is trying to get a list of all enabled modules, and for all enabled modules is calling function module name underscore hook name. This code on the upper left corner is some kind of symbol code, where you can see for each enabled module, you run module name underscore menu. So hook is replaced with your module name, underscore menu is hook name. On the right, each function is called from different applications for different modules. These are all modules already available inside Drupal core instead of our busy stats. So when hook menu gets called, every module that contains this main hook menu, this function is called, and in some cases also returns some data, in some cases doesn't return anything. It really depends on the hook. Here, for example, we have a module called local, user, contact, help, trigger, path, and each of these modules is applied for that hook. So you have many hooks. I mean, not so many. It's no way to, it's no meaning to learn them. You just need to understand where to find the hooks and where to find documentation for it, what the hook does, and how you can use it. Here are some hooks that I used from the start. Hook help, for example, is a function that provides available documentation for your module. Inside hook help, you just return a string that describes your module. Hook menu, as I mentioned before, is for path registration. It's to define a new URL so the Drupal can know what to do when you open that URL. Hooking it, it's a function that is called each time, so you can run something on each page refresh. You can, for example, define new constant inside init function. You can also attach additional JavaScript or CSS files in it, and other stuff that you need to have right from the beginning. Hook cron is a function which is called on a cron run. Drupal have cron that is run from PHP call or from module if you have installed cron module. More about the hooks, it's available on API, drupal.org. This website is very useful for every developer. If you are developing modules for Drupal, I'm very certain that you will have this open in one browser, maybe in the second screen, because here you will find how functions are defined. Each variable is declared, what it does, and you will find what kind of string or array we have to return, so the function can work properly. For example, I will visit this page just to show you what I mean. Here you can choose different Drupal cores. Let's say Drupal 7 for now. For example, hook help is this one. And you can see how this function changed during the development process. You see in here in 5 and 4.7 and in 7 there's differences. Here we have 2 arguments, here only 1. Each parameter is described. So here, for example, path and arc are something. You can read this if you want. And also important, return value that this function needs to return. You also can see all the code here. So you can also examine if this function is working properly. If you want, if you don't trust Drupal developers, or maybe you will find a bug here. It's all up to you. It's standard PHP, so if you're good at PHP programming, it should be very easy for you to use. You can also see for each function how many times in Drupal core this function is used, or how many times this function is called. And this is also useful because you can see how function calls are parametric. Also, one of the cool stuff about this site is our comments. People are very helpful because they are adding in the comments, they are adding their own code. So if you don't know how to do something, you just go through comments and you say, oh yeah, this is what I need. And you just copy paste. Maybe you change the text here and here, but you know what I mean. I hope you do. Also, it's very useful that you reply to those comments if you find a mistake or if someone is doing something wrong. So this is for every function. Drupal, for example, there is a function called line text. I don't explain. It's the same, so every function is documented in the same way. It's very useful. Okay, so now we can continue with our development process. So earlier I mentioned this hook called menu, where you define new path that you want to register in Drupal. This module needs to return an array of data. A very important one is a callback function. This callback function basically tells Drupal which function to call when this URL is opened in your site. So for example here, our callback function is this is stats page, and you will just return hello world, you are awesome. And if you put this in your module, it will not work because you still need hook menu. This is basic hook menu. You can see the necessary keys in this array. For example, items is our valuable array that we will return, and the key is your path. So we will be creating a page available on URL dc/stats-page. And this array entry have different keys inside, like title, access arguments, type, and of course page callback. This is a function that gets called when someone is trying to visit dc/stats page. Here you can also, in this, where's the mouse? Wait. Here in this key, okay, I cannot. For this key, you can also use wildcards. You can use integers, strings, and also predefine Drupal integers like node ID, user ID, and you can use each wildcard. You can use it as an argument to your function. Access arguments is very useful stuff. You can use it to determine which user have access to your content. Right now, for this stats page, and access content on the right side is basically a string that you pull out from Drupal permissions module. So if you put all of this into your module, you hit save and refresh your page. you will be able to see hello world you're hosting. But this is not enough, I'm sure. This is just basic how to get something working. If you are already a PHP developer, you can put any code you like inside our callback function. Here you can also integrate other possible frameworks that you are already used to work with. So here you can, I don't know, define classes, objects, you can call other functions, you can import, include other files, you can call system calls to operating system. So basically what every PHP file or script can do. So we will put some real code here. For this stats page, I would like to return how many of nodes, entries, and users do we have on our web page. This is very simple code. We will just here in, for example, in Drupal set title, we will set the title for this page. Node count is a count from database. I didn't put the whole query here because it was too long together for one slide. User count is our count from the database, and you put this in one array. And here I'm also using another function that is already available in Drupal called team table. There are many team underscore something functions that are there for you to use it. You can, for this example, team table will create HTML code for our table. You just need to define what are the headers and rows for your table. I will show you the code later, but if you go to your page and you refresh, you will get this output. And it's basically HTML table with values on the right. Here I find that headers are information and value, and here it's the same. So this is what our module is doing. Just like I said, you can do much more. You can use PHP, any other knowledge with existing Drupal functions, hooks, values, any other third-party solutions that you can put inside of the module. Links where you can find more about module development are the first one we already visited. It's api.drupal.org, also drupalcontrib.org. This second one have the same function as the first one, but only for contributed modules. The first one is only for core modules. Buildamodule.com, also useful web page. And for developer, it's also very important to have developer tools on your Drupal site that can help you figure stuff out, that you can determine what is going wrong or how something is executed. So this devel module is there to help you. If you use the devel module, you can print out any string, array, or object, or array of objects, and you will get a nice, clean, colored output where you can click and extend each value of a key. Also, there is a lot of books available for Drupal development. For those who prefer reading books, Drupal 7 module development is something that I would recommend. First two are also good, and there are many books about module development. Also, you will find a lot of videos on YouTube or even some screencasts on Drupal.org. I will show you now how our module functions look like. So this is our hook menu. Here is our module name and underscore hook name. This is our new URL, and when somebody goes to that address, this function gets called, and this function returns this viewable table. If I go to this page, here. This is our first module. So this is the end of my my presentation. Feel free to ask any questions you want to ask.
What about upgrading modules? From 6 to 7.
Okay. You mean development, that kind of module?
Is it easy to upgrade from 5 to 6?
These hooks, right? You have a hook for defining schema for your database, and you have hook for updating. So if you are doing updates functions, come in handy when you need to change something on the database. So you can define updates function. You just add hook update and you add an integer value of your update version. And inside those functions, you define what needs to be done for each update. And if you have something to change on the database, when you first deploy a module, you define the original schema for database. And after updates, if you need to change this table. So you can have, I don't know, many updates if you want, and inside of that function, you define all the necessary changes.
Okay, but I'm talking about upgrades from 6 to 7.
Upgrades, major upgrades.
You can't choose Drupal 6 module.
No, because if you are developing for Drupal 6, you should support for Drupal 7. And you need to examine which of the functions doesn't exist anymore and how the function changed. And you have to change the calls, return values, and your module should work. So when you need to basically examine the full documentation, what get changed, and you need to apply those changes to your code. Anyone else?
Yeah, does it Drupal also include some hooks which provide not only for statistics, like draw the graphs or something like this?
For example, for drawing graphs or presenting large amount of data,
Yes.
you can use, I don't know if I remember now, there is a very good library written in JavaScript, I think, and you can include this inside. It's only up to you that you prepare the proper data output for those modules to pick up your data and present it. So you can use any client-side or server-side modules that can work with a lot of data, and you present it like an image or even Flash graph or JavaScript or SVG file or something. Anyone else? If not, thank you for
Just some questions about debugging modules.
debugging.
Do we have any tool for debugging?
When you debug, when you develop, it's very useful to run PHP on server that show errors. If you're not showing errors, you will be it's very hard to determine what went wrong. But if you're not doing big mistakes inside the code, your Drupal will still be executed and displayed, and Drupal will show errors that he encountered. So this is one way. Another way is to use develop module that I mentioned before. You can print messages and you can examine if your structure of output arrays, for example, is in right order.
Are there any good ideas for Drupal module development, or is just
Since this is PHP, you can use any idea that is available for PHP. I personally only use Notepad-based editors or terminal. You can use Eclipse, NetBeans, that works perfectly. But still, you need on your local machine, you need a server that runs PHP and a database, of course, for storage. Anything else? Okay, so thank you for attending this session. I hope you all the best with module development. If you will have any questions regarding module, I'll be here all day, day tomorrow, so one day. If not, here is my card, the black one. You can take it and feel free to ask me anything or email or Twitter or any other channel. Thank you.